whole bunch of people were asked to draw a picture of the Earth from memory. And then all of their pictures, their maps that they had made from memory, were merged together, supposedly. And I was looking at this, and it was this crazy, ridiculous map of the world that's not very accurate at all. And it just goes to show how people think that they know what they have seen. People think that they remember things accurately. But the truth is, we forget a lot of what we see, and a lot of our memories are false memories because we just kind of have placeholders for data that's missing. And so there's this tendency in human nature to be self-deceived. We think we know the whole picture when really we see very little of it. It's like if you're driving down the road and you're on your cell phone texting or something. They say that you're basically blind for several seconds, and you don't feel like that's the case. You don't realize it, but you are. Because while you're looking at your phone, you don't really have the peripheral vision that you imagine you have. You subconsciously think you do, because inside your subconscious there's a lot of capacity to essentially extrapolate data that doesn't exist, and you can still have a sense of where the road is and a sense of what's happening and a sense of where other cars are based on where they have been, but you also don't have a good picture of what's going on right now. So if you have to make decisions based on changing circumstances and a rapidly evolving environment, you could be in trouble because you think you have a good idea of what's going on. You think you're able to react to things in an intelligent way, and really you're just on autopilot and you're operating off of ignorance, but you think that you have the aptitude needed to be successful. And that's a dangerous place to be, because we have a false confidence. Instead of being worried about whether we're going to have what we need faculty-wise to succeed, we think that we're good, and we really are actually really blind. And that's true for something like texting or maybe drawing a map of the world from memory. But it's true for other things in life too, on a more philosophical level, like religion, faith, politics, all those different things that we tend to form strong opinions about. And I think it's interesting how people can be so ignorant of basic everyday things. And those same people who couldn't draw a map of their own country from memory because they can't remember where the states are or where the major rivers are or something like that, those same people will come and tell you that they have all the answers for complicated political questions, or they have all the answers for what you have to believe if you're gonna save your soul from eternal damnation or something like that. And it's kind of crazy when you think about that, because we have so many people, very flawed, mortal people. We're not surrounded by a bunch of God-tier entities that are living forever. You know, like in North Korea, I guess there's this rumor that has propagated itself. I don't know if this is true, if it's like an urban legend, but it's funny though. Anyway, the rumor is that Kim Jong-un is like a god. And being that he is basically immortal, as a really kind of a up there kind of a guy, he's good. He doesn't poop because he's so efficient. I guess it's that communist efficiency at work. He just burns 100% clean all of the food he takes in. So he doesn't ever poop because he's a more evolved, more pure individual than all of the other citizens who live in the country. And that's why he gets to be, rather plump and fat and successful personally, while a lot of the people in the country perhaps are starving or something like that, and it's a little ridiculous. It's a little bit silly, but there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. There's people there and they're going to say, well, let me tell you about what God wants you to do. Let me tell you what you need to do, what you need to believe, what you need to read, what you need to accept, so that you can have eternal peace in heaven. There's all these ambassadors for truth, ambassadors and messengers of God. And yet those same people are the people who can't draw a picture from memory, probably. They're the people who are very flawed and very human. But they will go and empower themselves to tell other people that if they don't go along with something, they're going to go to hell, or they're going to miss out on everlasting peace or something like that. It's really quite concerning, because it would seem that truth should be the guide for all of the decisions that we make. And being flawed, as we are, we don't have any absolute understanding of truth. All we can do is be open to the truth, and we can say, okay, well, if I find out something that I didn't know before, then I will take that into consideration for the future. And I will adjust my course based on the best knowledge that I have. But how much of our perceived knowledge is just filling in the blanks with narratives we've chosen to embrace for social reasons, or because we were manipulated? There's a lot of things that are like that. And I keep seeing in social media, because I tend to follow a lot of the conservative folks who get into kind of going down these rabbit holes, this whole thing about the cruise, or not the cruise ship, the cargo ship that crashed into the Baltimore bridge and knocked it over. And there's all these people, and they're saying crazy things. They're saying the government knocked over the bridge. They're saying somebody forced the ship to crash into the bridge. They're saying maybe it was a cyber attack and we were hacked, and that's why the ship crashed into the bridge. Or maybe the captain of the ship was a terrorist. Or maybe somebody snuck up into the bridge and they planted a bunch of explosives in there, and then they blew up the bridge, and they used the ship as just a way to trick everybody into thinking it was an accident, when really it was blown up. and everybody's got all this stuff and they're sharing it around, and it's really just ignorance. Now, I don't know. Is it possible that there's some kind of foul play involved in a cargo ship knocking over a bridge? Yeah, it certainly could be a thing. It wouldn't be the first time that there's been some kind of foul play that perhaps either through negligence or looking the other way or whatever it might be, somebody does something crazy. That's totally within the realm of possibility. I'm not saying that things are always on the level. But what I am saying is that people jump into narratives and they start pushing an idea. And then those same people, if you say, well, I don't know that you're right about this, then they're going to look at you and say, well, how dare you? How dare you expect, me to, how dare you not believe what I have to say, right? And the truth is, these people don't really have anything to say. They're not experts in the field. They don't have insider information. All they do is they're looking at some news article, they're looking at social media, and they're crafting BS, and then they're sharing it. And they're saying, well, look at this, guys. All right, well, like, for example, the thing about the ship, if you look at the video, there's a ship, and it's going to crash into the bridge. Well, it looks like it turns into the support beam. And then people are saying, well, that proves that it was deliberate. Somebody just drove the ship straight into the bridge on purpose. And then somebody I was reading had commented on that, and they made a really good point. And the point of there is, if you drop an anchor and or hit full reverse on a moving ship, it's totally possible that the anchor will drag the boat to the right or left. It's also totally possible that trying to reverse the ship will exacerbate the difficulty of steering it. It's been often said that potentially the crash of the Titanic might not have been as bad if it would have crashed into the iceberg head on, but the fact that it had tried to steer around it while putting itself in reverse, it had reduced its capacity to steer at a time when it needed to be able to steer. So quite often the things that you're trying to do to course correct actually make it harder to course correct and make the accident either more likely to be unavoidable, or if it was unavoidable anyway, make the outcome worse than perhaps it needed to be. And then going back to the topic of what I was talking about, though, with religion and politics and all of this kind of thing, that's a good allegory. It's a good example of how a lot of times the things that we do, thinking that we're going to be investing in making our lives better or making other people's lives better, actually are making them worse. The more you rage against things that you think are evil, the more you bring on those very evil things that you are raging against. The more you fight darkness, the more darkness envelops you. It's like when you say, okay, am I happy? Well, I don't know now. I don't know if I'm happy. How do I know if I'm happy? And now I'm thinking about it, and I'm asking myself the question. Or you go on a vacation and then you're thinking, I gotta have fun, man. I gotta make the most of this time that I have. So I gotta make sure that I'm having fun. I gotta make sure that I'm maxing out every minute of the day. I've got to make sure that this is going well. And the next thing you know, you just spent your vacation being frustrated because you were totally afraid that maybe you wouldn't have enough fun on your vacation. So the end result was you were tried so hard to have fun, you had no fun at all. Now, the humble course is just to say, I don't know the answer to a lot of things, and I'm not going to pretend that I have answers that I don't have. Like when we get into things like religion, that's where I stand on this. If you look at the founding fathers of the United States, like these guys, a lot of them were Freemasons. They were deists, which is a more of a agnostic sort of a perspective on God and faith. They weren't anti-faith, they weren't anti-religion, but they had the general belief that there's a lot we don't know, and the intervention of deity in our lives is not necessarily like magic. It's not on a daily basis God is changing the outcomes of things. That we really take responsibility for life as it is. Life as it is just happens. There's good, there's bad. There's a lot of things that are neither good nor bad. They just happen. And if we want to change the course of the future, that's really kind of more maybe on us. Not that we would look to faith or something like that to magically change outcomes. And so, you know, I appreciate that attitude of not being anti-religion, not being anti-faith, not saying, you know, I oppose reverence to things, or I oppose religious symbolism, or I oppose having a sense of respect for deity. But I think it's also important to say, you know what, we don't know. You know, I think God is basically a word that we have as a placeholder for the unknowable. It's all the things that we don't understand. Maybe they could be explained one day, but right now they can't be. They can't be explained by us because we don't know. We have a sense that we're part of something greater than ourselves, but we don't really know what our place in the cosmos is. We have a sense of moral obligation to do right by ourselves and by others, but we don't necessarily know exactly what the right place is to draw a lot of those lines, and everyone has a different take on it. But the question is, can we find the courage, I think, to just lay things out honestly and say, I don't know. Like that takes a lot of courage to say, I don't have the answer, and I'm going to have a sense of faith in the absence of knowledge, but I'm also not going to place that faith in a position where it's more important than truth. Because there's a point where you become aware of something, and then at that point you can't allow a myth to supersede proven fact. If you do, then you're really pretty ignorant. And yet, to kind of touch on another topic that I've thought about, is that we really do need a lot of myths. We need the legends, we need the symbolism, because we are simple creatures. That's how we come to an understanding of the world around us, through symbols. Kind of like how people in the olden days, they would go into a cathedral and they'd be able to see the stained glass, and in the stained glass there's pictures that told stories. And maybe those people were illiterate, they didn't have books back then, and so it was a way, storytelling was a way for common people to grasp abstract ideas that maybe they wouldn't otherwise have understood or been exposed to. So we need that sense of faith in our life. We need stories to inspire us. We need fantasy. We need things that take abstract ideas and make them feel like they're real and physical and tangible. Just like how maybe a child can not understand the idea so very well of love and being, I guess, good and doing what's right for the sake of moral rectitude. Like they do understand those things, but not as well maybe as an adult would. But then if you tell them about Santa Claus, you say, well, just be good and you get presents. Well, they understand that a lot better. Okay, I want to be good, and good is potentially rewarded with Santa Claus coming magically to give me presents. And now, does Santa Claus exist? No, not exactly in a real way, but the spirit of it does exist. And so Santa Claus, I would say, is kind of a good thing. It's a positive thing. That doesn't mean that we want to embrace the notion that Santa Claus actually does travel the world and deliver magical presents from his magical bag and magical sleigh. Like, we don't need to officially believe that, but we can also respect the lore of it. We can respect the fun of it. We can respect the spirit of what Christmas perhaps is all about. And I believe firmly the same is true for religion and a lot of other things. We can be interested in politics and not be consumed by that partisanship that tends to create tribes amongst people. We can be respectful and celebrate the best aspects of religion and faith and all the things that those can teach us from the perspective of symbolism and moral lessons and cultural traditions and all of that. And we can also not necessarily be literalists in the sense that we put ourselves in the position to be the messengers of God, or to force ourselves or others to believe in things that we have no actual proof of. And I think it's crazy that people should have to be, I guess, told that. And I guess the people that need to be told that, there's no point in telling them, because they wouldn't believe it anyway. Because when people's mind gets made up, they are not interested in the truth. They're just interested in things which advance the particular narrative which they have embraced. And I think it's interesting that usually people who are pretty extreme on a topic, they do not respect people who just respect some aspects of what they believe. They expect you have to believe all of it. And if you don't 100% believe everything that they believe the way they want you to believe it, then you're part of the problem. You're the enemy, basically. And then that goes on both sides, and you have multiple tribes of warring factions of people. Some people are saying, well, I'm on the side of truth, and others are saying, well, no, like what I believe, that's the truth, and you are deceived, and just wait. If you don't believe what I believe, then we can be friends, but we won't be friends when you're burning in hell later on. Like, okay, I get it. That's kind of where you stand. So, and the crazy thing is, all of that is ridiculous, but that doesn't change the fact that I respect the culture. I respect the tradition. I respect the symbolism. And so I think there's a case to be made for both sides of this. And it's important to be pragmatic enough to not feel like you got to go ditch to ditch. If you want to be pragmatic and you want to be open-minded, it's important to be able to say, I don't buy into this 100%, because I'm not opposed to any particular belief system, but I'm not going to believe in something that I can't find any evidence of. And I've also seen going around the internet lately, people are saying that the end of the world is going to come because there's going to be a a lunar eclipse or something on, I think, the 8th of April. So people are saying, you know, Jesus is coming back at that time and the world is going to end. And, you know, I saw something going around about how there's like red cows that they brought over to Israel, and supposedly the Israelites are going to want to take the cows and sacrifice them, and then they're going to build the third great temple of Jerusalem, and it's going to be the kind of the war to end all wars, and it's going to hearken, you know, the end of the age and the beginning of the return of Christ, or I don't know, something of that nature. And people are just, you know, it's always something, right? Like people are always jumping into some kind of thing. And you know, I can't help but think it's ridiculous, really. I think it's ridiculous that people are always jumping on a bandwagon. And that also doesn't mean, though, that I believe that they are 100%, you know, they have nothing to offer. Because I think on the other side of it, there's a lot of people who are so anti-religion, anti-faith. They're just as obnoxious, just on the other side of the coin, because they want to destroy every tradition. They want to destroy everything that makes life feel like it has a connection to the past. They want to eliminate all of the things that have made us have what we would consider a human experience, in the name of some sort of a new awakening. And that's also just not good. Because if you eliminate everything that might be flawed, then you wind up with nothing. Like, what do you really even have if you are continually finding fault? You know, we can look at something like the Roman Empire, and we can say, oh, that was pretty cool, some of the stuff that they did. That doesn't mean that we want to structure our entire society based off of what they were doing. And that's really the question, I think. You know, can we embrace the good in things without expecting that we have to define our entire life by those things? It's like the difference between people that want to pick one particular game and say, I'm never going to play any other game. I'm just going to play this one. This is my one game I'm going to play. That's it, forever and ever. Or people who say, well, you know, maybe you could find something to like about a lot of different games. And if one is a little bit falling short in one particular aspect, then maybe you play more than one. Crazy idea, right? I saw a sign. I'll close with this. I was at the bookstore. Earlier today, and it said Jesus was not a Christian, and Buddha was not a Buddhist, and Muhammad was not a Muslim. They were just men who taught a message of love. And I don't know how true that is. Maybe it is true. Maybe it is not true. So I don't know about these guys. I don't know. We don't really know who they were. We weren't there, right? But what is true is that there's a lot of figures that get put up on a pedestal, and then people have an idea of what they were all about. And the truth is, they were like us, just human beings on a journey. Maybe they said something that resonated or inspired other people, but they weren't what people say that they are today. It's important to realize that. Maybe it's also important for us to remember that we have the ability every day to perhaps be those voices of inspiration that compel other people to think about things in a different light or to see the world in a different way. But we also should strive to avoid the God complex, the tendency to lift up others to the point where we value their fiction more than the truth. That's a hard balance. It's a hard balance because it's kind of like trying to be happy. The more you think about it, the more you realize that there's deficiencies. And once you realize that you're perhaps a little bit broken, then it becomes difficult to know exactly what the remedy might be. But what you can do, and probably a good start, is you learn to say, I don't know. Some people won't like I don't know because they want you to embrace their solutions as gospel truth. But if you say I don't know when you don't know, if you say let me see evidence before I choose to take a position, sure, you might live your life with a lot of unknowns. But I'd rather have unknowns than a comforting lie. I'd rather have the courage to say that life has a lot of question marks and I don't have all the answers. I think that that's a better way to live. And does that mean we get to the end of our life and then we wonder, what's on the other side? Sure. We contemplate our existence in many different ways, and we don't understand. As time goes on, a lot of scientists and different people speculate on the nature of the human soul, and perhaps one day we'll understand it a lot better than we do today. But as it is, it's largely a mystery. AI has been the big new thing lately, and people are always talking about that. But the truth is, despite all of the strides forward, AI still lacks a certain human element. You can tell that AI is just an algorithm that takes a lot of existing themes and splices them together to create variations on those themes based on prompts that it is given. AI doesn't have the ability yet, at least, to have that sort of an esoteric human element. And we don't know what exactly it is deep down inside our psyche, in the coding of what makes us human, that makes every single person in the world just a little bit unique. But maybe it also, one more closing thought here, maybe a good practice would be to forgive the ignorance of others and even the ignorance of ourselves. Because a lot of the things that we could point out as unredeemable human faults, they're also the things that make every human life a unique story. So would we really want to eliminate all of those things? Would we want to eliminate the things that make us human? And I think we probably would mostly agree the answer to that question is no. It's better for people to be people with all of their flaws and their conflicts and their ignorances. Better that than to forfeit all of the things that make us human for the sake of some sort of a sterile new utopia that's devoid of soul. So we should strive to be as enlightened as we can be, as open to the truth as we can be. We should encourage others to do the same if they're willing to consider a path of truth. But we should also be forgiving of the fact and understanding of the fact that people, at the end of the day, will be people. And that's all right, because everyone's story is meant to be unique. So, good luck on your journey. Till next time. Thanks for watching.